Are totally out of touch with reality.
Well, again, I don't.
Totally out of touch with
I don't
reality.
necessarily agree with that. However, I'm disappointed that they haven't haven't taken advantage of our willingness to sit down and discuss the issues at hand and come to some sort of a reasonable conclusion on a timely basis, and decided to go this route, which again is gonna prolong things, as far as I'm concerned, and not necessarily enhance the relationship between management and labor.
It's absolutely a step backwards associated with moving ahead with ALS. You know, which opens the door for us to look for other options there.
Other options not only with ALS, but complete ambulance service and the complete operation of the fire department. We may have no other choice.
Right.
It's unfortunate. I mean, there was a lot of time
I
invested.
really am surprised.
There was a lot of time invested on both sides in terms of this ALS proposal that was well put together and well thought out. And I think that's now shelved for the foreseeable future. And that's unfortunate. Could have been an added service to the community that we would have been able to provide by our own firefighters. But at this point, I don't see it happening in the near future.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Yule?
Yes, between the last meeting that we had and now, I mean, I'm surprised at this as well. I mean, were there any discussions in getting us to this point?
Sure. Sure. We had a negotiation session.
Were you surprised or not surprised
From the negotiation session?
when this showed up? When you?
Oh, this shows up within 48 hours. You gotta understand, the state wheels move very slowly until something like this gets filed, in which case it gets filed. I get a letter within 48 hours of the document being filed. In a perfect world, I'd like more time to be able to react, but I don't control the flow of paper from the state. So the petition was filed. The union indicated at the conclusion of a negotiation session that they would file for mediation. Until that filing actually takes place, you know, there's nothing really to be said, and then it was received within the last week.
Did they give you any indication they were going to do this? It doesn't
Oh,
sound.
yeah,
like-
we had a
the last-
negotiation session.
Just
At the end of the last negotiating session, that's when they indicated that they were going to go this route.
Correct.
So-
And like you said, until we actually get something that's filed, there's nothing to report.
Right.
I mean, I've been involved in negotiation sessions where someone says they're gonna file for the petition and nothing gets filed.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Basically, they put on a table a proposal
Mm-hmm.
that was totally unacceptable, weren't willing to negotiate it, and decided to
Well, I don't,
file for mediation.
I guess we need to be careful about going executive session issues.
I'm wasting away
I
here.
thought you guys were turning up already.
some more heat.
That's actually the air conditioning.
Any further questions on this? I think, obviously, detailed discussion will be done in executive session as we determine what steps or actions we might want to take. Next.
Allow me to proceed. The police department is nearing the final stages of the accreditation process. There's a group called the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. You have a copy of the letter. They perform an on-site assessment. Primarily, accreditation process is a recognition of policies and procedures and regulations that have been established in the police department. And the department has been working very hard to codify their rules, regulations, policies, and procedures so that they are standardized across the board. And as part of that standardization process, they would like to proceed with the accreditation. There'll be an on-site assessment that will be coming up to determine whether or not to approve the petition. I have every confidence that the petition will be approved. I've been involved as the administrator in reviewing every policy that's generated through the department and had an opportunity to comment on every policy that gets forwarded to me, so that the policies that have been drafted have had significant input of the administration, my staff, in terms of what they look like, and this certainly will be an ambitious goal of the department and will put us in some pretty unique company in terms of accreditation if it does get approved.
Yeah, I had never really heard of this until I read it in the transcript, and then I got this in your package. But I have to say, I'm pretty impressed, actually, when I looked into it. It's actually a standardized policies across the Commonwealth with other police stations that have been accredited, that have received this accreditation, which I think is phenomenal. And from a liability standpoint, I think that must be pretty good, because I'd have to assume that our policies now are gonna be in commonality with many others. My understanding, I think there's only about, 30 maybe, or around 30 towns that are already in the Commonwealth that have this.
Right.
So it's pretty good.
Right, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Selectman Prisco, that the intent here is to manage risk
Yeah.
and liability on the town and the officers, and make sure that everyone has an understanding of the rules and regulations that exist within the department. It's not to say that there's always 100% agreement in everything, but the process of getting to the end is pretty important, all-inclusive of everyone in the department.
It's phenomenal.
The last comment that I have is relative to the tax bills. The seniors were kind enough to come in on Friday to assist with the stuffing of those bills, which have been forwarded to the town's tax billing vendor. As usually the case, we will be mailing those out next week, so people can expect that their tax bills will be arriving about the first of the year. That's pretty standard in terms of, the bill, however, will be reflective of the new values that were certified by the Department of Revenue. And I think, as the assessor had explained when she was in to meet with you a month ago on the tax classification issue, the valuations that are established are as of January 1 of 2010. So people will look at their valuations and may question their valuations. They always have an opportunity to file for an abatement. Under the law, that's a statutory and a legal requirement. However, to file for an abatement, you need to have paid your third quarter bill. So anyone that does wish to dispute their value certainly needs to be in touch with the Board of Assessors to obtain the abatement application and ensure that the bill gets paid within a timely manner to make sure that that application is in fact valid.
Is the 30 days they have to file from the time they receive the bill or from the time the bill is due? I thought it was from the time you receive the bill
That's my understanding also.
that you have to file for abatement.
Has to be within that 30-day period, is my
You
understanding.
do have to pay your bill even though.
Yes,
So-
yes.
So you have to be current in order to be eligible to file for an
So, you
abatement.
know,
That's
think-
important, that's the most
important.
important message
Yeah.
here, to people who wish to file for an abatement. You must be current on your payments, including that third quarter
Well,
tax bill.
no, there's two things. If they want to file for an abatement, they have 30 days to do it from the date they receive the bill, or the date that the bill is sent out, I'm not sure which. but-
Right. Yeah, and they have to be current.
They have to be current. I think that's the key
That's the
question.
key thing, is that, instead of just filing for an abatement and hoping to fight it,
Mhm.
you have to pay it and then hope for a rebate.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're not eligible.
Thank you.
Okay. Old and new business. Mr. O'Leary.
Nothing other than wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and unfortunately, we won't be meeting until the new year, so the town is safe. So I wish you a Happy New Year and a safe and healthy one. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Steve, Michael.
No, I just want to say to the folks listening at home that, next year's right around the corner. And it's going to be, I think, probably an extremely interesting year for us, with so many different things up in the air, with, these contract labor discussions. And, I'm going to ask that the public participate. Be here, come to our meetings, try to make a New Year's resolution to make it out to 3 or 4 selectmen meetings next year, and really be involved and understand the magnitude of the decisions that this board's going to be faced with next year. And I'd like to pass along a message to all the employees that for next year, we actually have to be on the same team. We have a lot of unfunded liabilities facing us, and we have to find a way to solve that. We have a lot of benefits in our contracts today that are unsustainable, unaffordable in the future, and we need to all be on the same team on how we can actually pay these things in the future. And that includes their retirement assessments. So I'm going to ask for, in 2011, that we got to be on the same team. We got to find a way to do that. And then aside from that, I do want to also wish everyone a happy holidays, a happy new year, healthy new year, and safe travels to your families.
Mr. Delaney?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I want to first by thanking the town administrator for his efforts in his negotiation of the owner project manager contract. If anyone doesn't know, he negotiated a very, very favorable, in my eyes, contract for the town's perspective in terms of the dollar cost value of that contract. I was very happy to see what the dollar cost was at, what was going to be for that particular contract. So thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Delaconis,
Thank
for
you,
your
sir.
efforts in that regard. I also want to let the public know that it's hopeful that the contract for the OPM will go before the Mass School Building Authority in their first meeting in January, which is scheduled for January 10th. We're waiting for word from them whether or not they'll accept it for their agenda in that meeting. If not, it'll be delayed until February. So that's where the status of that project stands currently. Also, the MSBA has required the town to refresh the statement of interest regarding the middle school project. And I just want to remind folks, this current project that's in the infant stage of a feasibility study phase is only for the high school project. So MSBA came back to all the communities that had statements of interest, submitted if there were any outstanding, that were not in any sort of timeline phase, asked to renew. So the town will be renewing its statement of interest for the middle school project. Other than that, I too wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a healthy and prosperous New Year for everyone involved. And if those of you have not made a charitable donation either to the food pantry or other such charitable organization, please do so. It's really, in my opinion, a crisis stage. There's a lot of families that are in need this year that weren't in need in prior years. And I was sad to see last evening, if everyone else had seen it on the news, that there were Toys for Tot storage facilities in Burlington.
Yeah.
Someone actually, or maybe a group of people may have broke into and stole about $15,000 worth of toys. They're just absolutely reprehensible, especially the state of the economy and what people are facing in this current day. Thank you.
Jeffrey?
Yes, I'm just simply going to say Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy New Year, may it be healthy, and hopefully prosperous as it can be under the current economic climate. Have a wonderful year. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. You can relate to this. I guess we all can. I got word the town of Essex called a special town meeting this evening to adjust their budget so that they could get their tax rate approved. So you think about, the issues that, we face with just a water bill. They actually have to go in and adjust their budget because their revenue plan evidently didn't line up with the budget.
So your taxes going up again?
I would imagine there's a big crowd with the weather out there tonight.
I know where Angela is.
But,
She
they got a
finished
quorum.
baking the
Quorum.
cookies and she
May-
I don't think
may-
a quorum.
Maybe snow flurries.
Their quorum, by the way,
It's
is,
30.
their quorum, by the way, is 30 people. So there shouldn't be too much of a trouble
They
with
said
it.
they'd be calling.
I thought it was
everybody.
rather interesting, given that the DOR obviously is on top of everybody.
Not just picking on
associated,
us.
Not just North Reading. Greg, what's the status of the iPads?
We've actually approved a purchase order for them, and we're awaiting delivery on them, so I would.
Waiting delivery, okay.
Correct.
Board members, what I'd like to do is, once we have them, is we schedule a work session. Kind of go through the process of how best to use them, and I've kind of volunteered to help with that.
Better you than I to facilitate this, yeah.
Anyway, when you know they're here,
Confused when there's too much on the
then
screen.
we can schedule right after the first
Expect
of
them
the year,
any day.
any day. Okay.
Maybe even by Christmas Eve.
Oh, put a bow on them.
But,
Santa deliver them?
Yeah, we'll,
Absolutely.
we'll schedule some early evening work session or something.
We have one
as
scheduled
soon as we
now,
have
right?
them.
The
Working session.
13th.
Yes, right.
13th.
Yeah, we might be able to squeeze it in
Maybe,
tonight.
yeah, maybe we
Just
got
trying to keep
a little time that
things
night.
separated. I would certainly wish everybody happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and a very, very